Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your boy Jeremy from Randolph Running Club, back again with another video. Today, I want to talk to you guys about something that is near and dear to me at this very moment, just as I'm getting ready for the Berlin Marathon next weekend, which is dealing with injuries as a runner and kind of the best way to go about it, the best way to get back on track or get to that race day feeling the best that you possibly can, even if you do have an injury that you're currently dealing with. So first and foremost, I want to talk about kind of what is my current situation, why I'm even making this video in the first place. So I want to say probably sometime late July or early August, I started to have a bit of like an ankle pain, and it was something that made me feel like, okay, it's there, I kind of know what it is. I've had sprained ankles before, just playing basketball, football, various sports growing up, and I knew that it was something that I should be able to manage with a little bit of icing, slight rest, and just kind of taking a little bit of time to let it heal. And I would say it was definitely manageable, but always kind of there. And on a later run in August, I ended up running into like a kind of a pothole in the road or something, if you want to call it something like that, just a little dip in the road, and I rolled my ankle a little bit, and I was like, oh man, this is a little bit worse than I thought. But I kind of continued to persevere because we're runners, that's what we do. You're excited about running, you want to be out there on that road. And I ended up doing my longest run of this marathon training cycle. I had a 20 miler, which went great, didn't really have any ankle issues during that run. Had a couple 18, 17-mile runs as well, various speed sessions, things of that nature, and was just kind of going about my running as planned, right? I think I even got up to 60 miles one week as I'm doing this Fitzinger 1855 plan. So let's fast forward to end of August. I want to say like maybe the last week of August, I got to the point where I was like, okay, this is starting to impact me on runs. And I actually had to cut a 12-mile run a little bit short, just due to having this like extenuating ankle pain. I think I cut it down to like 10 miles instead of 12. And if you know me, I never ever do that. I'll just kind of persevere through the run. So it got to the point where it was bad enough on runs, and I just felt like, okay, I need to take this a bit more seriously. So that gets me into my first step of just dealing with injuries as a runner, which is go to the doctor as soon as possible if you have these lingering symptoms and you're not really finding relief from resting, icing, having elevation for that injury, things like that, right? If you're not feeling better after a few runs and you have this kind of dull pain that's just kind of always there, I think it's really pertinent for us to just really lock in and be like, all right, you can go on WebMD, you can watch all the videos you want on YouTube, because I know I'm guilty of that, but at the end of the day, you're not an expert, you don't know all these things, and you don't know what you don't know. So going to, in my case, I found a podiatrist online and was able to go and see them in person the next day and kind of confirm the injury that I thought I had, which is peroneal tendonitis, it seems like. Hopefully it's nothing more. I haven't gotten an MRI done just yet, but the doctor immediately upon looking at my ankle was like, okay, it's kind of swollen in this area. Is it sensitive? If you move your ankle like this, move your foot like this, and then I'm gonna touch this spot. Oh, it hurts there? Okay, it's the peroneal longus tendon, right? And it's like, I kind of had an idea what was going on, basically just looking at, WebMD and whatnot, but at the end of the day, only a doctor who's trained to know these things is really going to be able to give you the kind of accuracy and prescribe you the right kind of treatment. And after going to see the doctor, he mentioned take a couple days off and just kind of see how you feel. I let him know that I was training for a marathon and that I was very dedicated to running and didn't want to have that out of my life for too long, especially because the race was coming up within like 2 weeks. Just making sure that the doctor is on board with what your actual plan is, because I know a lot of doctors will say, especially if they're not runners themselves, oh, just in the walking boot, don't worry about it. 4 to 6 weeks, you'll be fine. But it's like, that's not always realistic, especially if exercise is so integral to your life, and particularly the kind of exercise that made you injured potentially. So, he let me know, okay, take a couple days, raise that ankle up, like above your heart. So like lie down maybe on the couch and have it propped up on the other side of the couch. Ice it, or maybe even use heat as well, depending on whatever feels best for you. He gave me like a kind of a compression wrap and was like, all right, basically if you can sleep with this, if you can have it on all the time, have it on right now. So, basically all these things kind of gave me a ton of relief, and I would say within the next week, now we're in this week, I'm feeling a lot better. Still not 100%, but I feel better to know that, okay, I have a chance that I can actually run this race, and you know, even if it's not the best performance I'm ever gonna have in a marathon or whatever, at least I know going in that I'll be the healthiest that I can be getting to that start line. So 100% go see a doctor as soon as possible if you have that ability, and you're not seeing your own home remedies kind of improve your condition. So my number 2 point that I really want to focus on here is just kind of staying positive and focusing on what you can do rather than what you can't do. So I know for me personally, just as somebody who's really into running and I love it, it's something that I do basically every day. You know, I think I've run 1,300 miles or something this year. It's like really hard to kind of walk away from that and be like, wow, man, I'm not really a cyclist, but I guess I'm gonna bike, or I'm not really into doing like HIIT workouts, but maybe it's time to do that or whatever. So I think it's just really important to kind of focus on all the positives. Like, yes, you can't run, but you can bike, you can swim, you can get on an elliptical, you can take a long walk maybe. You know, you can get into weightlifting or other things, other forms of cardio potentially that you weren't doing previously. Rock climbing is a really big thing. I know a lot of people seem like they enjoy that. There's just so many other things you can go and do and still enjoy a nice active life to supplement the running that you're no longer doing at this exact moment. But you know, ideally, it's not gonna be forever. You're gonna get back to it. So you just gotta keep that positive outlook. And I think another thing, kind of staying on that same mind frame, right, is like keeping your A goal in mind. So a lot of runners, if we're like for me doing this race, right, my A goal prior to the injury was to run like a 3-hour, 20-minute marathon, you know, and anything after that was like, okay, like this is, if you come short of that A goal, maybe now you have a B goal, which is like 3.5, and maybe a C goal is a 3:45 or something like that, right? But my A goal, and I think many people's is, who are runners, is to be running for a very long time. I like to be running when I'm in my 60s, 70s, 80s maybe, who knows, right? Like I'd like to be running my whole life if possible. So I need to kind of reframe and think, okay, I'm not really a cyclist. I don't really want to be biking. I don't really want to go swim or, you know, be doing an hour and a half on the elliptical when I'd rather do an hour and a half run. But my goal is to just maintain my fitness right now. So when I get back to running, it's not such a painful endeavor. And I want to be running for a long time. So I know that running too much now could jeopardize my A goal in the future. So if you went out too hot in a marathon, you know that that's going to jeopardize your potential of hitting your A goal, and you'd probably slow down. So why wouldn't you do the same thing when you're recovering, right? So yeah. And I think the other thing on staying positive is just focusing on the areas you've neglected. Usually if you have like an overuse injury like I do, you probably are going too hard in like some kind of fashion. Maybe you overpronate, or maybe you neglect your stretching and foam rolling and things of that nature. So, you know, as you'll see on the screen here, I did a ton of things like just hopping on that elliptical and kind of using that to supplement like cardio and just low impact cardio, right? So I'm kind of getting the same mechanics as running, but in a way that's not harming any like ligaments or soft tissue or whatever. But also getting on that foam roller, like you'll see here, foam rolling my calves. That's a really big thing, right? Basically anything that's above or below a joint, like you can't necessarily strengthen your joint, but you could strengthen the muscles around it and make sure that it's not working too hard. And I know I personally have neglected that a ton. So foam rolling my calves, getting really well on like the IT band and the hamstring. I went and had a sports massage the other day, and I realized that my piriformis was very tight, right? And it's like, okay, well, get on the foam roller and stretch that. You have nothing else to do, right? So just stay positive and remember there's a ton of other things you can do and things that you can use to strengthen yourself and make yourself a better runner moving forward. So I think that was like a really big takeaway for me as well. And then last but not least, I think, okay, let's say you've gone to the doctor, you've stayed positive, you've done all the other things that you can do to stay in shape and kind of keep your mental positive. How do you ramp back up? So the key here, I think, is really ramping up very slowly, considering doing, you know, maybe one day on, one day off. So I know for me, once I got back to running after taking like a little over a week off, I decided to do all my runs on the treadmill just so I have like a low impact surface. I'm not making any turns or introducing unknown factors like potholes in the road or something like that, right? And what I would do is run very, very easy, right? Like I'm talking extremely easy pace. You know, if my marathon pace is 8 minutes per mile or something like that, then I was running these at like 10 minutes or 10:30, and basically just taking my sweet time there. Doing one day on, the next day I would make sure I stretch really well, have the compression on, again, ice if I need to, and then 2 days later, basically, hop back on the treadmill again, and just give myself that grace to run slowly and really run by effort rather than what I think my pace should be. Checking the heart rate, just making sure that I'm staying in a nice, like kind of aerobic zone, but not doing anything too crazy. So I think, you know, those are kind of my tips right there as somebody who's currently dealing with this and hoping to run my best race that I possibly can at this moment coming up next Sunday for the Berlin Marathon. So stay tuned. I will have the GoPro with me on that run, and I hope to have some pretty good content for you guys and just kind of document that energy and the feeling of that race on race day. But if you enjoyed this video, you know, feel free to like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment. It can only help the channel. And you know, I look forward to seeing you in the next one. And as always, stay blessed, inspire others, and stay safe out there, y'all. See you next time.